Now we welcome Mr. Mohan Das to take us through today's session 3 and 4. Over to you, Mohan Prabhu. Thank you.
Hello all, namaste. Yeah, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're logging in. Extremely happy to see all of you folks. Some of you quite regulars. Yeah, I've been seeing you over the last 2 days. Fantastic encouragement for all of us. Here, like we've discussed earlier, this is one of the first times we're doing such kind of a event. So it's really heartening for all of us to kind of see this encouragement from all of you. Thank you very much for that. So without much further ado, let us start off with our discussions of the Bhagavad Gita further. So I hope everybody can see my screen. Just can I get a confirmation from Jai Govind Prabhu that it is visible?
Yes, Prabhu. Go ahead.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. So technology is still supporting us. And with God's grace, I hope it will continue supporting us. So, like we said, we're discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is. Yeah, thanks to our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, one of the most eminent personalities in this yuga. Yeah, and we are very fortunate to have his association through his books and through his words. We are covering chapter 3 and 4 today. Yeah, so quite a bit of material to go through, but hopefully it will be legible, and you will of course tell us through your question and answer session if there is something which you feel is not understandable or you need more information on. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. So, chapter 1, we saw the discussion around who are the participants in the war. Yeah, and we also saw some of the biggest issues Arjuna faced just before starting the war. Yeah, in fact, he was probably the same situation as I am. Yeah, I'm also quite scared. Yeah, doing this. Yeah, probably he was also just had the jitters before the start of the war. But predominantly his jitters was not out of incompetence or whatever, like me. Yeah, he had very valid reasons for not fighting. Yeah, and we saw those reasons. We saw it was compassion, it was enjoyment, loss of enjoyment, and he was fearful of sinful reactions because of killing so many people and so many animals. He was fearful of destruction of his entire dynasty and of family traditions. Yeah, and in the second chapter yesterday, we saw how he was indecisive because in front of him, he sees his grandfather and his teacher, the two most important persons in his life, and he is supposed to be killing them. Oh my God. Yeah, so that was the decision that was the indecision that he had. Yeah, and with that particular thought process, he just surrendered unto Lord Krishna. Yeah, we saw that particular event happening where Arjuna, who was a friend in just before this event happening, he surrenders and becomes a disciple, and Krishna becomes the guru. And he asks Krishna, please tell me decisively what is best for me. Yeah, and I am totally a soul surrendered unto you. So that is what we saw in the first and the second chapters. Quick summary of the second chapter also yesterday. I hope you all remember the acronym that we have for the second chapter. It was called GITA, Gita, Guru, Identity, the two duties, and Atma Rama, if you understand those two duties and your identity. Yeah, and we saw discussion around the soul. We saw discussion around Karma Kanda, around Karma Yoga. We had discussion on Buddhi Yoga, which was the intelligent merging of the two duties that everybody has. And we also saw Sthita Prajna, yeah, the symptoms of souls who are already realized this particular knowledge. Yeah. We are now going to see further on discussions in the aspects of this particular second chapter. So if you can see the overall composition of the Bhagavad Gita, the composition of the Bhagavad Gita is like an executive report. Yeah, so many of us in the corporate world, we do projects and we kind of give report to our management. And the typical format of the report is that you will have chapter 1 typically, which will be introduction and acknowledgements and thank you this guy, thank you that guy. So you'll see a cast of characters, all those who have played part. So that's a similar thing we see in the first chapter. We saw all the characters in the Mahabharata war as well as this particular area. The second chapter is like an executive summary. So in our reports also, we do an executive summary, which is a very condensed, concise version of the entire report. For executives who do not have time, they will just go through that particular executive summary. So chapter 2 is also like an executive summary in the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. So it kind of condenses all of the aspects of the Bhagavad Gita and packs it into the second chapter. Then come the actual content. Yeah. So from today on, chapter 3, 4, 5, 6 are the actual content of the entire Bhagavad Gita and the delineation of each of the concepts which Lord Krishna explains in the second chapter. Now, Krishna explains it in a much detailed, in-depth manner. Yeah, and then in an executive report, the last chapter is always the conclusion. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita also, 18th chapter is called conclusion. It's called the best aspects of renunciation. And so exactly similar to the executive report, this Bhagavad Gita is set up. And now we're going to, we've seen the summary yesterday, and we're now going to go into further aspects. So second chapter, very detailed, explains about Sankhya Yoga, about the philosophy of the soul. And we saw that particular aspect yesterday. Yeah. Now, in today's chapters, we're going to see explanations around Buddhi Yoga and Nishkam Karma Yoga, the art of work that we saw yesterday, the famous shloka, Karmanyevadika raste, ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma karma phala heturbur, ma te sangostva karmani. Yeah. So that art of work Krishna describes further. Yeah, in this particular chapter, chapter 3, and also in chapter 4. So let's see how chapter 3 is set up. So just like you remember, chapter 1, the acronym given for chapter 1, if anybody remembers, it was called doubt, D-O-U-B-T. Yeah. Chapter 2 was Gita. Chapter 3 acronym for ease of remembrance is tree. Yeah, chapter 3, tree. So tree, what is the aspect? So T-R-E. Yeah, so it enunciates tyaga or renunciation. Yeah, and it clears the confusion that Arjuna has. Yeah, and we will see that particular aspect in the first part of this particular acronym T. Then comes the yoga ladder or the rungs of the yoga ladder, that is the R. Yeah, so Krishna takes Arjuna from Karma Kanda, from animalistic life to Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. It's a slow hierarchical process. And of course, he takes him much further, which we will see in this particular chapter also. Then Krishna explains the next E, which is exemplary actions, Nishkam Karma, how to actually act properly. Yeah, that's what he delineates in this particular section. And lastly, Krishna describes who to be aware of, who to be beware of rather. Yeah, the enemy of the soul. He discusses lust and anger in this particular last part of this first. So going further, let's look at the first part of that tree, the T. Yeah, Tyaga or renunciation. It comprises of first 9 shlokas. Yeah. And like I said yesterday in one of our question and answer sessions, the entire Bhagavad Gita is like a discussion between Arjuna and Krishna, where Arjuna asks questions and Krishna answers them. Yeah. Now Arjuna also begins with this particular chapter, yeah, with a question. Yeah. He says that you have now in second chapter or in the previous verses, you have told me that I should use intelligence. You told me intelligence or spiritual intelligence or buddhi yoga is better than fruitive work. If that is so, then why are you telling me to fight? Yeah, because Arjuna is confused. He's thinking fighting is fruitive work. Fruitive work means work which you want to do your own sense gratification. So he thinks Krishna is telling him to fight because he wants Arjuna to win the war and enjoy the result of that particular action. Yeah. And he gets confused saying that Krishna is telling, no, don't do that. Yeah. So he's kind of confused in this particular aspect. Yeah. And he's asking him as to why you are telling me to fight. Yeah? If you're telling me buddhi yoga, renunciation is much, much better, still you are telling me to, you're asking me to fight. Yeah? Kim karmani ghore mam, ghore, yeah? This ganghor yudh. Ye yudh, why are you asking me to fight? So Krishna now explains this particular aspect. Yeah. So he begins, Lord Krishna explains some basics about who the spirit soul is. He has explained already in the previous verses about who the soul is. And one very, very important aspect of the soul is that the soul is extremely active. Yeah. So that's in text 5 that Krishna tells Arjuna that the soul is always acting, and he's acting helplessly according to the qualities that he's acquired. Yeah. So based on the qualities, now if the soul has to act, yeah, which means he will act either in a good way or in a bad way. Yeah. So those are the kind of typical engagements that the soul typically has. Yeah. And you'll see, because the soul has to act, yeah, it has to do either good thing or a bad thing. Yeah. Now, what is the issue with both of these? With both of these is that each of these actions, either the good action or the bad action, it creates karma. It creates reactions. Yeah. If you do good, you'll get good. If you do bad, you'll get bad. Yeah. Those are the two typical laws of karma that we all see and we've heard of. Yeah. And also, one very important third part or aspect of this particular law of karma is that the good karma does not negate the bad karma. Which means if you have good karma also and bad karma also, you have to enjoy and suffer at the same time. And somebody asked this question around why Dhritarashtra was born blind. And we saw in that particular discussion how Dhritarashtra had to get a lot of good karma to get 100 sons. And of course, he also suffers from his bad karma, which we had done earlier. So it's not that the good karma negated the bad karma and therefore it canceled out and became zero. That doesn't happen. Yeah. So because the soul is always active, it keeps generating karma, either good karma or bad karma. So that is one of the important understanding Lord Krishna gives us. Yeah, and he goes further and tells us, therefore, that what is one of the propositions that Lord Krishna tells us, that if you have to be active, then why not do your prescribed duties? Yeah, we saw those two duties earlier in the second chapter, Krishna explaining those two duties. Yeah, and if you're active, yeah, my proposition is, why don't you do your prescribed duties? Yeah. Now, if you do prescribed duties, what is the benefit? Yeah, you will gradually purify your heart. You will get, of course, good karma, and you'll enjoy the heavenly planet. You'll enjoy your life. But one of the propositions Arjuna has, that is, he wants to give up he wants to go begging, which means he wants to give up his prescribed duties. Yeah. Now Krishna explains here in this particular aspect that in this particular shloka that this particular prescribed duties, if you give up, it is a very, very bad thing. Yeah. Why is it a bad thing? Because you are not supposed to be giving up your duty. Mate karma akarmani. Yeah, you're not supposed to get attached to not doing your duty. So a simple example here that we can see in everyday life is if a mother is to take care of her children, she says, no, today I'm tired. I'm not going to take care. Today I am not doing my duty. Will that be allowed? It is considered to be, yeah, of course, not good. Yeah, and because she is not doing her duty, she will get bad karma, which is what Lord Krishna is also telling Arjuna. That anyway, if you're active, if you're doing a prescribed duty, then why don't you actually perform what your prescribed duty is? Yeah. So engage yourself in your war and do not run away to the forest. Yeah. And herein Krishna comes in and explains the most important part. Yeah. He says that if you do your prescribed duty as a sacrifice, yeah, as a sacrifice to Lord Vishnu, then it will not cause bondage. Yeah. It will be not binding, but it will be liberating. So now to explain this particular aspect, so we've seen if you do prescribed duties, you get good karma. Now, good karma is also problematic for us. Yeah. Why is it problematic? Because to enjoy the benefits of the good karma, we will have to take birth again. Yeah. Which means that you will get old age, disease, and death. Yeah. Because every time somebody is born, the same person has to die. And we've seen that particular aspect in the introduction 2 days earlier. Yeah, every living thing, everything which is born has to go through old age, disease, and death. which means that good karma, even though it is good, it is enjoyable, but it still gives us old age, disease, and death. Yeah. So what to do then? If you do bad karma, you're going to suffer. If you're going to do good karma, you have to still take birth and undergo birth, old age, disease, death. You might get a good life probably in your next life. You might become the king of Dubai. Yeah. And what will happen? You will enjoy, but still you will have old age, disease, and death following you. So good karma is also not a very great proposition. So therefore, good karma or bad karma, both are causes of bondage. Bondage means we as souls will have to take a body again. Yeah, which is not good. Yeah, which is the cycle of birth and old age, disease, death will keep on continuing. Yeah. And this is what Krishna says: karma bandhana yajnarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. Yeah. So if you do action, do your activity as sacrifice to Lord Vishnu, then it will not cause bondage. Yeah. Perform work as a sacrifice to Vishnu, or work causes bondage. Yeah. So that's where the first aspect or first part of the T or Tyaga comes in. Tyaga, because we are, Lord Krishna is telling us or telling Arjuna to do his work as an act of sacrifice. Yeah. Now, sacrifice here doesn't mean only either an animal sacrifice or a fire sacrifice. Yeah. It could also mean spending time. Like, for example, we have all taken our time off and we're going to spend the next 18 days, 1.5 hours of our life into understanding Lord Bhagavad Gita, into understanding Lord Krishna's Gita. And that is like a sacrifice. We have sacrificed our time to understand the Lord's words. Yeah, understand how the Lord is trying to is to help us with this particular. So it's like a sacrifice. Yeah, and this 1.5 hours becomes liberating and not binding. Do not think that when we are doing this particular discussion here, it is a good karma. It is not good karma. It is a liberating activity, and we will see this in a few minutes as to how that is. Yeah. So important point to remember in this particular part, that when you perform work as sacrifice to Vishnu, then it does not cause bondage. Otherwise, it causes bondage. Yeah. So that's where we move on to the next aspect, and Krishna explains the yoga ladder, yeah, or how the activities can be moved from one level to a higher level to a higher level, and to understand this particular aspect. Yeah. So yoga ladder, Lord Krishna describes very, very beautifully in the Bhagavad Gita as this particular. So I can see, of course, I've blurred out the top 3 rungs of the ladder that will come in later. But Krishna in this particular 3rd and the 4th chapter talks about going up to Nishkam Karma Yoga. Yeah. So what does that mean? So let's look at this particular yoga ladder itself. Yeah. So if there are no rules, regulations, we saw as human beings, we are Dvipath Pashu. Dvipath Pashu means 2-legged animals. Yeah. There's no rules, regulations. If we follow, then we are animalistic life. Yeah. So it was described yesterday very beautifully by Harikopal Prabhuji that dharma, if there is no dharma in a human being's life, then it is like almost animalistic. And if you start following some aspects of rules and regulations, yeah, and you do it, those rules and regulations for your own benefit, then you go to a higher level. Yeah, that is called karma kanda. Yeah, and then you start doing the karma kanda in a much better way, and you want the enjoyment of those particular karma kanda activities. You move on to sakam karma yoga, and then Lord Krishna explains that if you give up even the results of the activities, you go up to nishkam karma yoga. So this is like a yoga ladder Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna. And when we talk about performing activities as a sacrifice to Lord Vishnu, yeah, we are performing Nishkam Karma Yoga. And that is actually a practical life lesson for all of us. Even though Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna that you should perform Nishkam Karma Yoga. And why is he telling to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga? Because it will not bind Arjuna. Arjuna was fearful. One of the doubts of Arjuna, or one of the reasons of Arjuna for not fighting, was fear of sinful reactions. So Lord Krishna is answering him. Okay, you do Nishkam Karma Yoga, you do your activity as a sacrifice to Lord Vishnu, you will not get bad karma. Yeah. And same life lesson is also applicable for us. we also have to do our duties. Me as a grahastha, I have to take care of my family, take care of my son, education, so many duties I have. Yeah. Now, if I do all of these duties as an act of pleasing Lord Krishna in some way or the other, yeah, then what happens? Even though I'm doing my normal bodily duty, I'm still doing Nishkam Karma Yoga. Yeah. So that is the very beautiful part that Krishna explains this particular aspect of Nishkam Karma Yoga, or doing work as a sacrifice for Lord Vishnu. Yeah. Yeah. So this is what we see. So let's see a simple example Lord Krishna gives in the matter of cooking, yeah, or in the matter of food. Yeah. So Lord Krishna says, and he explains this very beautifully in the 13th verse of this chapter. Yajna sishtashina santo muchyante sarvakil vishayhi bhunjante te tvagam papam ye pachanti atmakaranat. Yeah. And he says that people or devotees who offer food, yeah. So you cook food and you offer the food to Lord Krishna or Vishnu, then what happens? The sinful contamination of that food goes away. Yeah. And that is the very, very fantastic part about doing work for Lord Krishna's pleasure. This is what the rule is. Yeah. That if you offer food, so you do cooking. In the cooking also there is chopping, there is cutting, there is boiling, there is frying. It's a very violent activity. But you're doing that violent activity or other activity for whom? For Lord Krishna's pleasure. You cook all that food, you take a nice bowl and you put it in and you offer it to Lord Krishna, saying that Lord Krishna, I've cooked it for you. Yeah, it's just a mechanical act, but that act liberates us. Yeah, because even when we say have vegetarian food, yeah, plants also have life. Yeah. Now there is a lot of karma involved even in vegetarian cooking. Yeah. Now, how does that karma go away? When you offer that particular food to Lord Krishna. Yeah. And that is what it says. This is Lord Bhagavad Gita's verse, yeah, which says that as soon as you offer food to Lord Krishna, then the act of offering, yeah, actually takes away all the karma. Yeah. And others who don't do it, actually they eat just sinful food. Yeah. So they get karma, and because of karma, they have to come back again. Yeah. And this is what Krishna explains in the cycle of sacrifice. Yeah. So he explains this particular chakram. Yeah, he calls this as a chakram in this particular verse. Yeah, 14th verse. And what is the chakra? What is the cycle of sacrifice? Yeah, you can see all living beings, they live on food grains. Yeah, where do the food grains come from? It comes from rain. Now, where does rains come from? Actually, it's described in our shastras that the rains are a result of yajnas. Yeah, various sacrifices that we do. And if we do our prescribed duties as a matter of sacrifice, then actually we're performing yajna. Yeah. And where is this described? This is described in the Vedas. Yeah. And where do the Vedas come from? The Vedas come from the Supreme Lord. And therefore, you see the cycle of sacrifice filling in. For all of us now living in this particular Kali Yuga, yeah, we see what is the best process. There are various recommendations which we will see as we go further. One of the best recommendations is to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, or to do a devotional service and devotional activity. And if you see most of, just before we start the class, there's a beautiful kirtan going on. What is the kirtan doing? Kirtan is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Why? Because it is one of the best sacrifices or the best activities that a jiva can perform. So that's a practical life lesson for all of us. It is, of course, given to Arjuna, but we are getting benefited also from that, because we don't want to get stuck in the cycle of birth, old age, disease, death. Yeah, I don't want to come back again into this and take one more life. Yeah, and go through the same thing of birth, old age, disease, death, go through the same education, go through the same traumas. Oh my God, I don't want that. Yeah. So that is a practical life lesson for all of us. Yeah. If we do our activities for the Lord's pleasure, automatically we get freed from these particular reactions. Yeah. And that is that brings us to the next E. Yeah. So we see the rungs, and we see here what is the exemplary action, and what we discussed till now. How, if we perform our duties with detachment, and as offering our results to Lord Krishna, then all of those karmas goes away, and that is the exemplary action. Yeah. And we see this, Lord Krishna describes this in 17 and 18. Yeah. that that all these jivas who understand this particular aspect, that if I do activity for the pleasure of the Lord, I will automatically not get karma. And they start doing this particular activity practically in their life. Yeah, they're just doing their normal day-to-day activities, but in their day-to-day activities, they are associating those activities for the Lord's pleasure. Yeah, they're associating, they're thinking of the Lord. They are doing that activity, thinking this activity is for the Lord's pleasure. So they're one way or the other bringing Krishna into the, or bringing the Lord into the picture. So there's a very beautiful Vedic injunction there, which says yena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshaya. Means one way or the other, we have to bring Krishna into the picture. Yeah, we have to bring our Krishna, or invest our minds in Krishna while we are doing our activity. And this is what Vedic culture has been teaching us from time immemorial. The various events that we have, yeah, the cultural festivals, yeah. In fact, the aspect of bhoga is there in every what I should say, caste, or every Vedic religion. Yeah, the bhoga concept, yeah, is there. If you go to the Guru Darbar, you'll see bhoga being offered, and that being then given to all of us as prasad. Yeah. So what is that? That is nothing but cooking activity, giving for the pleasure of the Lord. Yeah. And what we're doing, we have to eat anyways. So therefore, we eat that particular food, and that liberates us from our bad karma, or even good karma rather. Because we don't want good karma also, because that will bring us back again into this material world. So going further, Krishna gives examples. Yeah, who are these people who did such kind of a thing? He says King Janaka, he did his prescribed duties and offered the results to the Lord, and he also did this. And he says, I myself, Lord Krishna says, I don't need to follow any of these particular things, but I also do all of these particular set of prescribed duties as an example for everybody. Yeah. So the Lord Krishna sets an example here. King Janaka has set an example here. Why? Because whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. Yeah. And whatever standards the great man sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Yeah. So Lord Krishna wants all of us to pursue these fantastic aspects of karma yoga. Yeah. And Krishna then describes about, just to make us understand, what is the difference between what a learned person does and what an ignorant person does. The biggest difference of people who do not understand this aspect is they all act for their own sense gratification. They're all thinking, oh, I want, or me. And so the I doesn't limit to just myself. It expands to my relatives, my son, my daughter, or it expands to my further expansion, all of my maybe my India, maybe, or my countrymen, yeah, or maybe all of my my religion, yeah. So my and me is very much important for that ignorant person, yeah. But for a self-realized person, what is he doing? He is doing every activity for only the Lord's pleasure, yeah. So that is the difference. Both are doing the same activity, yeah, but one is getting liberated from the results of the activity and he's not getting bound, whereas this person, he is getting attached to the fruits of the result. Yeah. And because he's getting attached to the fruits of the result, he is also getting attached into the karma, into the cycle of karma bandhana. Yeah. And therefore he will have to take birth again and again and again. Whereas this person, he will not have to take birth again. He will get liberated. That is what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. Yeah. That you act in this particular manner. Yeah. Even though you have to do this duty of killing, yeah, you do it just as a matter of duty and offer the results to me. Yeah. And he says that very clearly, in fact, in the 8th chapter also, subsequently, which we will see in a couple of days. Yeah. And this just very briefly gives about the differentiation, what happens to an attached worker and to a detached worker. Yeah. The one who follows Nishkam Karma Yoga, yeah, what happens to him? Yeah. So one of the important aspects is this consequence of this knowledge. Yeah. If he understands this and he knows this, what happens to him? He's not disturbed by any kind of material reaction and considered all reactions to the mercy of the Lord. Yeah. So that's the kind of effect that this particular acting in this particular platform has. What happens? he starts to become a sthita prajna, which we've seen yesterday in the second chapter. The definition of sthita prajna was he's equipoised. He's not disturbed by any of the good things happening or the bad things happening. Yeah, so that's the important aspect Lord Krishna describes in this particular set of shlokas. And Krishna, therefore, finally comes to the conclusion of this particular section here in the third chapter. And he says, therefore, what you do, surrender all your work unto me. Get free from lethargy and fight. Do not claim proprietorship of the results of that activity. Fight without desire for profit and with full knowledge of him. And this is considered to be the purpose of the Gita. Text 30 of chapter 3, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigata jvaraha. Yeah, this is a very, very important shloka, and it's considered to be the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. Once we understand this and start applying this in our life, yeah, we start doing our duty with this particular attitude, yeah, this particular aspect. And then we start to get into the aspect of Nishkam Karma Yoga. Yeah, that is what the Lord is trying to explain to Arjuna. And of course, thankfully, because this is published out, yeah, we also have got this knowledge. Yeah, and if we start using this knowledge, that is what will happen to us. Yeah, we will also become like this detached worker that we saw. So coming to the last aspect of the tree, yeah, E is the enemy. So Arjuna, obviously, he hears all of this from Lord Krishna's mouth, and he says, okay, I understand this, all of this, yeah, but even though I know that something is wrong and I shouldn't be doing it, but I still go ahead and do it. Yeah, what is it? What is that force? Yeah, I know I should not do it, but I still go ahead and do it. Yeah, and that reminds me actually of an incident in my own life actually. Yeah, that as a child, I remember in good old school days, we used to write, when we used to write with pencil. There was a very fantastic pencil in my when I was small, called the Stedler pencil, beautiful yellow and black, and we were all we were all Nataraj people. And I've seen this pencil with one of my friends, yeah, and I liked that so much that when my friend was not looking, I kind of pinched that pencil, yeah, and I knew it was wrong. I shouldn't be doing it, but that lure of that pencil, oh my God, it was so beautiful. I just couldn't help myself, yeah. So as if by force, as if something inside me told me, go ahead, pinch that pencil. You know it's wrong, but still go ahead and do it. That is what that is what the doubt Arjuna has, yeah. And Krishna answers this very, very beautifully. He says that what is that force? That force is called Kama and Krodha. Yeah. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Lord Krishna says, Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, Rajo Guno Samudbhavaha, Mahashano Mahapapma, Vidyenam Ihavairinam. Yeah. This is the all endeavoring enemy of everybody. What is that? That is lust. Yeah. And Krishna then delineates further onto lust. He, of course, explains many, many aspects. And one of the aspects I've depicted here in this particular chart is as to where the lust sits. Yeah. So the lust sits in the senses. Yeah. The senses are the ones which are always looking around. Where can I enjoy? Where is nice music? Where is this nice movie? Yeah. So it is always trying to enjoy. Yeah. So the senses are one of the sitting places of the lust. Yeah. Above the senses, yeah, is the mind. Yeah, the mind is also a sitting place of lust. Then there is intelligence. Yeah, and the soul, which is covered by these three things: mind, intelligence, ego, and the senses. Yeah. So if you see, we saw the description of the soul and its covering in yesterday's class when Harigopal Prabhu showed that picture of the soul in the center and its covering. So the mind, intelligence, and the senses in the form of the gross senses or the gross body, is the covering of the soul. And these three places is where the lust sits. Yeah, and basically lust has conquered these places. And one more, see, so if you've seen, I have depicted this picture in a slightly like it goes above. Yeah, what it shows is the senses are controlled by the mind is controlled by the intelligence, and above the intelligence there is the soul. So there is an aspect of control here. Yeah. So we can control the senses to control lust, or we can control the mind. If you control the mind, automatically the senses is also controlled. Or if you give spiritual intelligence, yeah, buddhi yoga, yeah, if you control the intelligence, then the intelligence, mind, and senses are controlled. Or if you get into this act of Nishkam Karma Yoga, then the soul itself controls all of these things, and automatically lust gets controlled. Yeah. So there is a strategy to control lust here. Yeah. That is what Krishna is explaining. And that is what Krishna concludes. Yeah. That we have to overcome lust. How do we overcome lust? By making ourselves transcendental. Yeah. Because the soul is higher than the material senses, mind, and the intelligence. And how do we control? Through spiritual intelligence, deliberate spiritual intelligence. This control comes in. That's how the conquering of the mind comes in. Yeah. So that's where Krishna concludes chapter 3. Yeah. And again, to remind us of this this particular third chapter, the acronym is TREE. Yeah, chapter 3, acronym TREE. Yeah, TREE for Tyaga, R for rungs of the ladder, E for exemplary actions that we see, and E is who the enemy of the soul is. Yeah, and Srila Prabhupada beautifully concludes or gives a summary of this third chapter, which I will read from my notes. Yeah, he says, everyone must engage in some sort of activity in this material world. But actions can either bind one to this world or liberate one from it. Yeah. So actions, your actions either bind you or they liberate you. Yeah. By acting for the pleasure of the Supreme without selfish motives, one can be liberated from the law of karma. Yeah. Action and reaction, and attain transcendental knowledge of the self and Supreme. Yeah. So that's how Srila Prabhupada gives a summary of the third chapter. Yeah. And Lord Krishna gives a very, very potent advice, saying that we have to steady our mind through spiritual intelligence. If we don't do that, what happens? We will basically get bound in the cycle of karma bandhana. Karma bandhana means you will get, so because of your actions, you will get so much of karma. Because of the karma, you'll have to take birth again, yeah, to either enjoy or to suffer. Yeah. In either case, whether it is good life or a bad life, old age, disease, and death will follow you. Yeah. So this cycle of karma is not a good proposition at all. Yeah. Even for Arjuna, that is what that particular aspect is. Yeah. And of course, life lesson for us, we also don't want to come back into this material world, come back again, reborn, get reborn into this material world. We don't know what kind of life, what kind of body we might get. Yeah. And therefore, the proposition is that let's apply this particular aspect of karma yoga, Nishkam karma yoga, to our lives. Yeah. So that's where we kind of finish the third chapter. Yeah. And let's move on to the fourth chapter, and let's see how the fourth chapter is related to the third chapter. Yeah. So in the third chapter that we saw, Krishna describes karma yoga, doing detached work, yeah, or work only for the pleasure of the Lord. Yeah. What happens if we do that? Yeah, we will basically not get birth again, or we will not get bound again into this karma bandhana. Yeah. But what stops us from doing karma yoga? It is lust. Yeah. We want to do things for ourselves. We want to enjoy ourselves. Yeah. So what is the lust covers? Lust covers knowledge. Yeah. So how can you overcome lust? It is only through knowledge. Yeah. Ignorance binds us to this material world. Yeah. So what conquers ignorance? It is transcendental knowledge. It is knowledge which overcomes. Yeah. And that is what is the link to this third chapter. Yeah. Chapter 4 talks about transcendental knowledge. Just after Lord Krishna has explained lust and how lust is so harmful for all of us. Yeah. He explains how to overcome lust. Yeah. Through spiritual intelligence, through transcendental knowledge. Yeah. So Krishna describes transcendental knowledge in this fourth chapter. Yeah, it is also called Jnana Yoga. Yeah, in this particular chapter, we will look at what is transcendental knowledge, how it should be received, what it does. Yeah, how it elevates us from Sakam Karma Yoga to Nishkam Karma Yoga, and how it purifies our consciousness. Yeah. So that is what is the subject matter of the fourth chapter. And beautifully, the acronym to remember the fourth chapter is years, our years. Why years? Because transcendental knowledge you first acquire, it first comes into your year only. Yeah. So fourth chapter, transcendental knowledge, Jnana Yoga. How do you acquire? Through years. Yeah. And what does the E represent here? E represents the eternal transcendental knowledge about Krishna. So you will see aspects around who Krishna is, yeah, and also as to why we should know who Krishna is. A is the accurate application of this particular knowledge. Yeah, what does it mean to know who Krishna is and how to apply this knowledge about Krishna to our lives? Yeah, and of course, Arjuna, it was for Arjuna, but it is also beneficial for all of us. R is how do we remove reactions? What happens? How does this reaction go away? Yeah, so there's this concept of Jnanagni. Yeah, Jnanagni means the fire of knowledge. Yeah, how this fire of knowledge it helps us to remove all our karma, all the reactions. And S is the sacrifices that lead to transcendental knowledge. And that's where Krishna concludes this particular fourth chapter. So let's see in a little bit of detail. Like we said, this is the essence session. Yeah. Each of these verses we could discuss in days, over days actually. Yeah. But what we are doing now, like Prabhuji, day before yesterday, Jagan Prabhu explained that we're just swimming in the water. We're not going deep down. Yeah. Just to get refreshed as to what this is. Yeah. So let's see what E, or eternal transcendental knowledge about Krishna is. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, it's up to the first 10 shlokas. Let's see what these 10 shlokas describe. Yeah. Lord Krishna begins by telling the history of the Bhagavad Gita here. He says that I spoke this knowledge to sun god Vivaswan, yeah, around 120 million years ago. Yeah. Then Vivaswan spoke it to Manu, Manu spoke it to Ikshvaku, and that's how the disciplic succession goes on. And we saw this disciplic succession in two different sessions, one in the introduction session and also yesterday in Hari Gopal Prabhu session. Yeah. But unfortunately, what happens? The course of time, yeah, which destroys everything, the disciplic succession also gets destroyed. Then what happens? Krishna comes back and re-establishes this particular, yeah, and that is what Krishna is doing here. He's telling it to Arjuna now, yeah. And Arjuna, why is he telling it to Arjuna? Somebody asked yesterday in one of the question and answer session, why did Krishna choose Arjuna only? Yeah, and Krishna tells this in the third chapter, in the third verse of the fourth chapter. He says that because you are my devotee and my friend. Yeah, what does he say? What does he say? He says that the very science of relationship with Supreme today is told by me to you. Me to you means from Krishna to Arjuna, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of the science. That's what text 4 says. Text 3-4 talk about this particular transcendental mystery and the science. Yeah? And why is Arjuna chosen? Because Arjuna is a devotee of Krishna and a friend of Krishna. Yeah, and that is what we also should try to be. Yeah, so that we can also understand this particular aspect, and that is what describes as the qualities required to understand this Bhagavad Gita. So this is another life lesson for us. Yeah, that if you want to really understand Bhagavad Gita, then you have to become a devotee of Krishna or a friend of Krishna. Yeah, and basically you can see here, yeah, this disciplic succession is a small picture. Yeah, but we've shown this particular picture from Krishna. It comes to Brahma, then goes down to Madhvacharya, then to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then it comes to Srila Prabhupada, and from Srila Prabhupada to us. Yeah, because all of this knowledge which Srila Prabhupada is giving is coming from the disciplic succession. Therefore, this particular beautiful Bhagavad Gita, or this edition of Bhagavad Gita, is called Bhagavad Gita as it is spoken by Lord Krishna so many years ago. So Arjuna, of course, is not a fool. He starts to doubt. He tells Krishna, "Arey, what are you talking? You were just born in front of me. Yeah, you were my cousin. So how are you saying that you spoke 120 million years to sun god Vivaswan? What are you telling?" Yeah, so he challenges. Yeah, Arjuna also challenges Krishna, of course, in a very serious manner. He says, "Yeah, that sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him?" Yeah, so Arjuna also doesn't take everything blindingly, and there's a lesson for us here. Yeah, that we also should not take any knowledge that somebody gives with just blind faith. We have to keep our eyes open. We have to ask questions. Yeah, and therefore questioning is a very, very important aspect of Vedic culture. Yeah, we encourage questions is exactly for this reason, because this is the right way to acquire knowledge. It also establishes authenticity. It also establishes firm faith, because once you get the right answers, you get convinced. Yeah, and that is what these two classes of men become: people who are convinced that Lord Krishna is supreme. They, when they comment on the Bhagavad Gita, then that is to be accepted, because they have accepted him as a friend of Krishna. Yeah, and there are many other people who do not believe in Lord Krishna, but they still write commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, and the asuras, we don't generally want to read those commentaries. We discard them as useless. And how do you find out? You find it out by questioning. Yeah? Very, very simple. If you just read those purports, if you read those understanding that these people are, you will really come to know whether they are inimical to Krishna or they are friend of Krishna there. Yeah. So that's the kind of quality check that we all should have yeah. So therefore, Krishna, to answer Arjuna's question, he then tells about himself. He says that, yeah, that although he is unborn and his transcendental body never deteriorates, and although he is the Lord of all living entities, he still appears every millennium. Yeah, and because he appears every millennium, he is able to remember all of this, all of his past activities. So there is a difference now that we come to know. Yeah, that how is Lord Krishna different from all of us? Yeah, one very clear difference is Lord Krishna remembers all his activities. Secondly, Lord Krishna says he appears. So the word appears is very important here. So for example, when the sun rises in the morning, we don't say the sun is born. Or when the sun sets in the evening, we don't say the sun has died. We say the sun has disappeared, or the sun is appearing. Yeah? The sun has appeared. So same thing also applies for the Lord. The Lord never gets born or he dies. Yeah, he appears and disappears. That's one of the beautiful aspects of the Lord that we will understand as we go further. Yeah. And Krishna in various verses describes all of this particular aspect. Yeah, that he appears, but he still remembers all his past birth. He appears in his own body. Yeah, so this is another key difference that we will see. We have a soul and we have a body. So we are like two. There is a body and there is a soul. Yeah, and the body is owned by the soul. Yeah, so when I say I have a body, I is the soul and the body is, and I consider both as me here, of course, out of ignorance. Yeah, but Lord Krishna, he is fully soul. That's why it's called super soul. We are soul, he is super soul. Yeah, same logic as man and Superman. You say man and Superman. Yeah, we all know how powerful and how great he is. Same thing, a soul, we are very minuscule. We saw the size of the soul. If anybody remembers, the size of the soul explained was 100,000 part of the tip of the hair. So that is the minuscule part. But what is Krishna? He's super soul. He's fully soul. Yeah. The analogy is that of an ocean and a drop of an ocean. Yeah. So qualitatively we are same. The drop of the ocean and the full ocean qualitatively is the same set of chemicals, same all of that. But quantitatively is different. And that is what Krishna describes here. Yeah. So how he, all of this particular aspect around Krishna describes in this particular verse. Yeah, and that's where we see the difference between Krishna and conditioned soul or us. Yeah. So we are also eternal, but we forget. Why? Because our bodies deteriorate. Yeah. Forgets because our body changes and deteriorates. Our body, yeah. So even I don't know yesterday or day before yesterday what food I had. Yeah. So I keep forgetting. But Krishna, he remembers all his activities, avyayam. Yeah. Yeah. And Krishna appears by his own will. If he wants, he will come here. Yeah, or he will appear. But we are forced to appear by our karma. So we are like bound here. And our body is material, Krishna's body is transcendental, which means it doesn't undergo birth, old age, disease, death. Yeah. Yeah. So there is a lot of discussion around, beautiful discussion around difference between Lord and us. And therefore he is called the Lord. And we are the living entity. And Krishna then explains this beautiful aspect as to why he comes. Yeah. So why does he appear? And this is this beautiful two shlokas that you all will remember when you saw yesterday. Hari Gopal Prabhu talked about the Mahabharata serial, and I remember the same serial, of course, and Muhammad Rafi singing this beautiful in his deep basal voice. He's singing Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata Abhyudhanamadharmasya Tadatmanam Srujamyaham Paritrāṇāya sadhūnām vināṣāya ca duṣkrutām dharma samsthapanārthāya sambhavami yuge yuge. Yeah, and my God, that just gives me goosebumps to think of Muhammad Rafi singing these beautiful verses. Yeah, and these are the verses where Lord describes as to why he comes. Yeah, so in 7th he says that he comes why? Because he wants to establish the principles of dharma. Srujami means why he manifests. So you have to understand this difference here. Srujami doesn't mean he's born. Yeah. So many people think Krishna is born and Krishna dies. No, the right understanding is Krishna manifests. Krishna appears. Yeah. And why does he appear? Because he has to establish the principles of dharma. Yeah. And why does he have to establish principles of dharma? Because the true religion goes away. So when dharma gets, because abhyuthanam adharmasya, when adharma becomes predominant, Krishna comes. Yeah. And why does he come? He says in this, Paritrāṇāya sadhūnām. He comes to help the sadhus. All the good people, he wants them to help them and to take them back. And to destroy the dushkritam, all to destroy people who are not following a religion or adharma. Yeah. And dharma samsthapanartha, to establish religion. Sambhavami yuge yuge. He comes millennium after millennium. He keeps coming. Yeah. Because knowledge keeps getting destroyed, he comes to re-establish. Yeah. So when he says he comes yuge yuge, sorry, this slide is a bit smaller. But all I wanted to depict here is how does Krishna comes in each yuga? He comes in various avatars. He comes as Leela avatars, he comes as Purusha avatars, he as Guna avatars, he comes as Manvantara avatars. And all of these avatars, all of this is Lord Krishna or his expansions. Yeah. So when to understand Krishna and his expansions, a very simple understanding is like if I have a flame which is on a candle, yeah, then so you can see the flame in the candle, you then bring in another flame, another candle, and you light that other candle. Now you see two flames here. Now both these two flames are same. Yes, everything is same about it. They have come from the same source. But are they different? Yes, they are different also. Yeah, because they're two different sources. But are they same? Yes, they are same also. So simultaneous oneness and difference. So this achintya tattva bheda bhed. This is the philosophy that this particular parampara, Gaudiya Vaishnava parampara, describes Lord Krishna as. That he is simultaneously one as well as different. Yeah, and this is where how he is different, because he comes into yuga either as expansion. Many times it comes as himself also, like he did 5,000 years ago. That particular avatar, then he comes when Lord Krishna has come, he's come in as himself here. Yeah. Yeah, and of course, this particular slide is again a bit crowded, but these are the various types of avatars. And I will tell you in a minute why it is important to understand these aspects. Yeah. So we see various avatars of Lord Krishna here. Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Karanodakshai Vishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu. All these we will discuss and understand on the 17th day when Hari Gopal Prabhu discusses Srimad Bhagavatam. It talks about creation. It talks about all of these avatars of Lord, of expansions of Lord Krishna. Yeah. Yeah. His expansions in the spiritual world. So the right side picture, left side picture that you see is the spiritual, is like a logical, conceptual depiction of the spiritual world and the various forms that he has in the spiritual world. Yeah. Similarly, the bottom left is the material world. Yeah. So there's a clear delineation. There's a spiritual world. There's a material world. And he comes in the material world and he also comes in the spiritual world with his various expansions. Yeah. Of course, we don't have time, but hopefully when you people start to understand and look more deeper into these particular aspects, you will see how Lord Krishna appears yuge yuge, sambhavami yuge yuge. He comes in all of these particular forms. Yeah. And now Krishna tells why it is important to understand this particular aspect. It says, Janma karma chame divyam divyam evam yo veti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. Yeah. So one who understands the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna and his activities does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again in this material world. So that is the important life lesson for all of us. Why we have to understand who Lord Krishna is? Because we don't want to take birth again in this material world. We don't want to come back again into the cycle of birth, old age, disease, death. I don't want to come back again here and do all my engineering all over again, and I don't know what kind of life I will get. No, no, no way. Yeah, I want to go out of this particular material. I don't want to be encaged in this body. Yeah, I don't want to take birth in this material world. So what I have to do, I have to understand the transcendental nature of the Lord. Yeah, and that's where the first section gets finished, and we understand the second aspect, second area, again, different aspects of the Lord. Yeah, as to what does the Lord do when he comes here? He establishes something we discussed about as the varnashram dharma, the division based on guna and karma. So the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is not a birth-based classification as per the Bhagavad Gita. It is a division based on guna and karma, which is created by the Lord. Yeah, and why does he create this? He creates this to systematically develop our God consciousness. Yeah. So if we follow the right varnashram dharma, the guna and karma based differentiation of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, we will systematically develop our Krishna consciousness. Yeah. And this particular aspect to understand, here is to look at why we have to understand even why Krishna and what does he do. Yeah. Because he says, one who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in fruitive reactions of work. And what is the truth about Krishna? That even though Krishna creates this varnashram dharma, he is beyond it. Yeah. And Krishna gives two examples. He says that just like the king, yeah, he's not subject to state laws. The laws that he creates, he is not bound by the state laws. Yeah, he can, if Sheikh Mohammed here, he doesn't want to stop on the red signal, nobody is going to question him. They will, yeah, please go even on the red signal. He is not bound by. Of course, if he wants to stop, he will stop. But if he doesn't want to, he can still go ahead. Yeah, nobody can question him. Yeah. Similarly, a proprietor of a company, he's not responsible for the activities of the workers. They themselves are the responsible person. So the Lord also, even though he creates this law of karma and he creates this three modes of material nature, he is not bound by those particular laws. So this is what we have to understand about Lord Krishna, yeah, about the Supreme Lord. These two aspects, his transcendental activities and the fact that no law is applicable to the Lord. Yeah. Namam karmani limpanti, name karma phale spruha, name karma phale spruha. Yeah. Na spruha means touches him. Yeah. Itimam yo abhijanati, karma bhir nasa badhyate. The karma doesn't bind him. Nor does any of the karma phal touches him. Yeah. So this is when we understand Krishna's transcendental activities, and we understand this aspect that these laws which are here in the material world does not apply to Lord Krishna. Then we start to understand that we are different from Lord Krishna. Yeah. And we start to understand what is a relationship with Krishna. And when we understand this relationship with Krishna, we do not get entangled in the fruitive reactions of work because we act in a knowledgeable manner. Yeah. And this is the aspect of this Jnanagni. Jnanagni means fire of knowledge. That is what the next section talks about. Krishna very, very beautifully describes this particular aspect, that there are three types of karma. Yeah. One is normal karma or sakarma, which means that you will get good reaction. You will do good, you will get good. But to get good, what happens? You'll have to take a body again to enjoy the reactions of the good work that you have done. Yeah. Then the second type of karma he explains is vikarma. Yeah. Or actions which are prohibited. And what happens when you do vikarma? You will get suffering. Those are bad reactions that you will get, yeah, to the work that you have done. Then Krishna describes the most important type of karma which is applicable for all of us. That is called akarma. Or when you do an activity, when you do an action, that action does not generate any karma. So imagine what a fantastic way of doing or living life is. For entire life, if you can do a karma, then you will have zero karma all your life and you can get liberated. Yeah. And this particular aspect is the fire of knowledge. Yeah. That Lord Krishna describes. That if you work with this particular knowledge in mind, all of the actions that you do, yeah, all of the actions will become inaction. Yeah. What does that mean? It means it will generate zero karma. So even though you have acted, you've gone out, worked, you've done the entire action, you've led a very active life, but because you've done your action with this knowledge that whatever I'm doing it for Lord Krishna's pleasure, that entire action generates zero karma and it becomes inaction. Yeah. So even though I've done so much of action, it becomes inaction. It becomes zero karma. So, and what is the other part? That I might just be sitting here in one corner and doing nothing, but still I'm generating karma. Why? Because I'm not doing my duty. Remember the example I gave you of the mother. Yeah, the mother is just an example there to understand this concept. That if the mother does not do her duty and just sits in one corner, oh, I'm going to do yoga today. Yeah, that is problematic because she's not taking care of her children. She's not taking care of her. She's not doing her duty. That is problematic, which means she is doing inaction, thinking that I will get zero karma, but she's getting action. She's getting a lot of karma by not doing any action. Now, if we understand this aspect, this differentiation, Krishna defines this understanding of differentiation as intelligence. He is an intelligent man who understands this particular aspect. Yeah, he says this particular very clearly. If in text 18, he says, one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in a transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. Yeah, of course, among men here is Old English. It refers to women also. It doesn't mean only men, persons basically. Yeah, yeah. So, so what is intelligence? Intelligence is to understand what is action and what is inaction, or the difference between action and inaction. So you might see somebody doing a lot of activity, but entire activity is done only for the pleasure of the Lord. Yeah, that entire activity is become zero karma. Like if I do cooking and the entire act of cooking, I offer it to the Lord subsequently, saying, Lord, I've done this for you. Please accept this. Yeah. Then that entire action of cooking, that 1 hour that you spent in the kitchen becomes zero karma. That is the beauty of this particular aspect, this jnanagni. Once you understand this knowledge, once you get this in your mind, तुम्हारे जहन में डाल दिया जब when you understand this aspect, this particular knowledge, it actually acts like a fire. And what does this fire destroy? It destroys all your karma. That is why it's called jnanagni karma dagda. Yeah, jnanagni dagda karmana. Yeah, so fire of knowledge. Yeah. So very quickly, all the people who are intelligent, who are devotees, they do with this particular. So you will see many people doing a lot of action, but in their mind, they're doing it only for the Lord Krishna's pleasure. Yeah. And because of that, because of this knowledge, they all their karma is described. And now we come to the last part. Yeah. So this is, if you see till now, whatever I've described, this action, doing it for the Lord, is more like a sacrifice. Why? Because I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for somebody else. That is what sacrifice is about, right? And Krishna now describes various kinds of sacrifice here for our understanding. Yeah. And of course, we'll not go into much detail, but Krishna describes various kinds of sacrifices. Yeah. And he says, what is the goal of each sacrifice? Yeah. Sense control, to gain transcendental knowledge, and to do devotional service. Yeah. So that is the concept of sacrifice. When I do every activity for the Lord, what happens? Automatically my senses get controlled. Yeah. Automatically I start gaining transcendental knowledge, and I start to do devotional service. Yeah. That's how that particular thing works. Yeah. And why does it work? Because it is a science. It is experimented by our acharyas. Just like if you mix two gases, oxygen and hydrogen, you will get a liquid, water. How does it happen? It happens. That is how it is. Yeah. Same thing. This is also it is. Yeah. Once you start doing this activity, with this knowledge that I have to do every activity for the Lord, yeah, automatically you will start to gain transcendental knowledge. And that is what this Brahman realization is, or the realization that that's what the result is. Yeah. Yeah. So again, like we saw this particular aspect, why we have to do, yeah, and how to get this knowledge, who will give this knowledge, how to really find out what about this is. That's where Krishna explains this process of acquiring transcendental knowledge. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. That we have to inquire. That is why the importance of questioning. But how do you inquire? Submissively, after doing some service. Yeah. To whom will you do? You will ask it to a tattva darshina, or to a tattva darshina, one who has known, one who knows. He is called the spiritual master. He is called the guru. Because he is tattva darshina, because he has seen the truth, he will impart this knowledge unto you. Yeah. And that is what Srila Prabhupada has done this here. Also, all of these particular words that I've taken here is everything from Srila Prabhupada's book. Yeah. He is that tattva darshina. He has seen this particular knowledge. He has seen Lord Krishna, and he has given us this knowledge to us. Yeah. So when we start to inquire into this particular knowledge, we start getting transcendental knowledge. Yeah. And where does this knowledge come from? So very quickly, we've seen the 4 sampradayas. Yeah. In fact, the 5th sampradaya also, the Mayavad sampradaya, but we don't consider that as authorized because it doesn't lead us to the real goal of Lord Krishna. Yeah. So we saw this very briefly in the introduction class by Srivala Prabhuji. Yeah. And it talked about 4 different disciplic successions. Yeah. I will not go into much detail. Then Krishna comes finally into these various sources. It talks about transcendental knowledge. Yeah, how to achieve knowledge, who is qualified for knowledge, what is the qualification of a guru, and what is the result of getting transcendental knowledge. Yeah, all of these aspects is described in this particular 34 to 41st verse. Yeah, and Krishna then concludes, and he tells Arjuna, yeah, tasmat ajnana sambhutam Dhrutastam jnana sinatmanah chitvainam samshayam yogam attishtotishta bharata. Yeah, armed with yoga. Yeah, armed with this knowledge. What you have to do? Fight. Fight means, of course, for Arjuna, that is his duty. For us, whatever our duty is, we are all grahasthas, we are all students or whatever. If we do our duties with this knowledge, what is that knowledge? That whatever I'm doing it only for Lord Krishna's pleasure. Yeah, what will happen? All the karma that you have, it will get destroyed in the fire of knowledge. Yeah, and what will happen with this weapon of knowledge? Ignorance will get slashed. And we saw ignorance causes what? Causes this birth, old age, disease, death cycle. It causes lust. We saw in the end of the 3rd chapter. What does ignorance cause? It causes lust. Yeah, and lust. How does lust get destroyed? With knowledge. Yeah, and that's the key life lesson for all of us here. Yeah, whatever Arjuna is being told is definitely applicable for all of us, because we are also like Arjunas. We are also in this material fighting every day with various aspects. But if we fight with this knowledge that if I have to do all of this for Lord Krishna's pleasure, for the Lord's pleasure, I will not get any karma. And just doing my work, my daily work, I will get liberation. I don't have to go to the Himalayas and sit for yoga and do all of this. Extremely practical way to get liberated. Living in this particular world, you don't have to leave Dubai or your homes or whatever. You have to do your duty with the thought that I have to do my duty and I have to give my results to the Lord. Yeah, and that's where we kind of end today's session with this particular same acronym called years. Yeah, to understand Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga, transcendental knowledge. It will go through a year. Yeah, years, eternal knowledge about Krishna, applying this knowledge accurately. Yeah, accurate application of this knowledge, removing reactions through applying this knowledge, and doing every work that we do as a sacrifice. Yeah, even this 1 hour that we've spent here, 1.5 hours, is a sacrifice. Yeah, what is the fire here? Fire of knowledge. Yeah, the fire of knowledge, where all of this 1 hour of action, I'm talking here, I'm doing so much of action, but all of this is zero karma. Yeah, even when I'm speaking, so many germs are probably getting killed, but all those are becoming, all that karma is becoming zero. Why? Because I am acting in this particular aspect of transcendental knowledge. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. I hope that was clear and understanding. If there are any questions and doubts, I am open, and of course, I have with me Hari Gopal Prabhu, who will help me with some more questions to answer.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mohan Prabhu. We have quite some wonderful questions in the chat. Yourself and Hari Gopal Prabhu will answer one by one.
So maybe Hari Gopal Prabhu can go first.
Yeah.
I will take some breath. Hare Krishna, Hari Gopal Prabhu, you there?
Yes, now I'm unmuted. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay.
So I will go through some questions, but hopefully you are.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Mohan Prabhu. I think that was a wonderful session, and covering third chapter and fourth chapter, we have quite a few questions here. I'm going to take a few of them. So we see that the first question, how to remove karma and bondage? Karma bondage, that's the question. So the thing is, instead of working for our pleasure, if we work for the pleasure of Krishna, why? Because we are parts and parcels of Krishna. That's what has been described today, right? And so what happens, because we are part of a whole, so if you pour the water in the root of this plant, then what happens, automatically the branches and everything automatically becomes happy. So when we perform dharma instead of karma, then we can remove ourselves from karma bondage. So that one. And then do you want to take the next one, Mohan Prabhu?
Yeah, thanks. I stand corrected. It was Mahendra Kapoor, not Mohammad Rafi, who sang that Paritranaya Sadhunam. I don't know why I had Mohammad Rafi in my mind. Thank you so much for that correction. Also, there's a good question that I'm taking here. Mahima Mataji sorry, go ahead.
Mohan Prabhu, sorry for the interruption. Sorry, Prabhu, for the interjection. I thought I may want to add some important point. When Hari Gopal Prabhu answered that, in one of the books of Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, the concept of dharma work and not dharma work is explained. Akarma is explained as work is worship. It's a normal saying that we do. We have to follow that, because work is worship but it gets us the good and bad reactions, and we are conditioned by that. Work as worship is what Hari Gopal Prabhu is referring as akarma, or the one which does not lead us to any action, but it leads us to the path of bhakti. So there's it is a very simple English change, but the whole level of consciousness changes. Work is worship and work as worship. So as we move into Bhagavad Gita from second chapter, third chapter, fourth chapter, and we move on to sixth, seventh, eighth, work is worship, which is taught by Krishna to Arjuna, that you have to fight because you are a Kshatriya, slowly transforms into work as worship. So the Karma Yoga metamorphosizes itself into an all-encompassing yoga. So this is what I just wanted to share. Sorry, I interjected you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. So in fact, that question gets answered in the fourth chapter itself. So if you dive a bit more deeper in the fourth chapter, you'll get answer to that particular question. Moving ahead, one question I saw by Mahima Mataji, and I think I like that question, saying, in our past life we did karma without having knowledge of Nishkam Karma Yoga. How to get liberated from past karma? Yeah. So exactly, like because we are now here because of prarabdha karmas, we still have so many past karmas still pending. Yeah. So those karmas can also get destroyed in this fire of knowledge. Yeah. One of the most potent acts that you can do is chant japa. Yeah. So when we chant japa, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, a lot of our past karmas, start slowly getting destroyed. Yeah. And in fact, when we start leading pious lives, we take care of our future karmas also. So we have to follow some regulative principles, and when we start doing this life, all our future karmas are taken care of, and past karmas are taken care of by doing japa. And this japa is a process in every religion. Yeah, you will see Muslims, you will see Christians with the rosary, you will see Muslims with they also have a rosary going. So this japa is a very, very powerful process interjected by every religion. Yeah, or in fact recommended by every religion. Yeah. And why is that important? Because when you take the names of the Lord, your past karmas get destroyed.
We have one question here. What happens when activity for pleasure of Krishna is done just as a prescribed duty for the sake of it and not with spiritual sense? So the answer is yes. Krishna gives an answer for this. He says, "Ye ye tamam prapaddante tam tataiva bhajameham." So if we approach Krishna just for the sake of it, then he also responds for the sake of it. But if we approach him with love, he says, "Patram pushpam phalam toyam." If you just do for the sake of it, then that is how much we get. We get released from karma. But if you want Krishna's love, then he says, just give a little love along with that ingredients that you're offering to me. Then I will reciprocate with love. So he says, that's the way that we approach Krishna. So not just for the sake of it. That's one. If all souls are part and parcel of Krishna and are connected to the people in whom we come in association, like parents, etc., why should we get detached from them and attached to Krishna? They won't. They who don't have the same understanding as we have. That is the question. The simple answer is yes. It's a very elaborate question. Needs an elaborate answer. But the simple answer is detachment does not really mean no affection. Right? We should understand one thing. When Krishna says detachment, detached from family, it does not mean that immediately I start looking at my wife as an enemy, my children as some people who are going to make my spiritual life difficult. We are like, devotional service does not mean we are like zombies, like we become numb to all relationships and all exchange of relation. No, that is not what it is. In fact, we can, in the whole Ramayana, it explains about how the relations were so, you can see the emotions between Dasratha and Rama, and then Lakshmana and Rama, and then you can see Bharata and Lakshmana. There is cry, there is, all the emotions are there between them. Does it mean that they were not in devotion? So the point is, detachment does not mean no affection, but it just means that we know what is that affection for and how long can we take that affection for. And that's all it really means. Mohan Prabhu, do you want to?
Super. Yeah. So I think one question very fantastic is, give us practical examples how to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga, devotional towards Krishna in daily life. Yeah. So very practical and like kind of a life lesson kind of a question. And what can be done is, like I keep telling in my children class, that you start faking it. Yeah, fake it till you make it is the principle. That you start thinking that each activity that I'm doing it for the Lord. Yeah. So for example, I am brushing my teeth. Yeah. How can brushing teeth become devotional service? Yeah. Just because I have to think in my mind, I have to change that consciousness that I'm brushing my teeth. Why? Because when I go in front of the altar, the Lord I should not get bad breath in the altar. Yeah. And because I want Lord Krishna to not have bad breath, I'm brushing my teeth. Yeah. So brushing my teeth is an act of devotional service now. Why? Because in your mind, you've just switched this consciousness that I'm doing an activity for the Lord. Like that, everything. Yeah. You are cooking. Yeah. So when you cook, you can think of, while cooking, you can think of, I'm cooking for Lord Krishna. Don't think that I'm cooking it for my son or for my husband. Of course, they are only going to eat it. Yeah. But only your consciousness switch is done. Yeah. That when I'm cooking and I'm cooking it for Lord Krishna, and he actually followed through. What do you do to follow through? You take little bit of food and you keep it in front of Lord Krishna, saying, Krishna, I prepared for you. But finally, what you do? You take that food and you only eat it, right? Isn't it? Yeah. Or your son eat it, or your husband eat it, or whatever. But that act of doing this, this faking of this act itself becomes purifying. Yeah. Of course, once you start faking it first, then it starts to really start applying. And then you really want to do it for the Lord. Yeah, automatically. That's what the importance of this particular aspect is. Yeah, of doing practical devotional service. Everything. You go out of the house, first thing, you start the car, you think of Lord Krishna, that I'm going to work because I want to get money, because I want to maintain Krishna's house. This is not my house, this is Lord Krishna's house. So because I want to maintain this house of Krishna very nicely, I'm going out for working. Yeah. So like that, every aspect of your daily life, you can connect it to Krishna. And if you remember, see the slides, I showed the picture where even while driving is thinking of Krishna, while working is thinking of Krishna. So that is how the practical aspect comes into the picture here. Yeah.
We have one here. How do you define designated karma? What is the justification of karma for celebrities or sports stars, which is mostly of self-glory, glamour, and money? Interesting question. So how we understand this is we understand that these great personalities, or so-called great personalities, as we look at them in terms of the glory, the glamour, and money that they enjoy, means that they are constantly withdrawing from their account. What does it mean? They have a bank balance. What is the bank? The bank has punya and papa, so which means they have a lot of punya balance. They are constantly using their credit cards or debit cards, whatever. They are withdrawing their balance constantly, and when they are done with all of the punya balance that they have in their account, then what happens? They become paupers. They come to the street. They have no more glamour. They have no more glory and whatever, right? So they have to start like anybody. In fact, when we see that it looks like they are glamorous, they have a lot of glory and money and all of those things, even though they have everything in terms of money and everything, but the kind of suffering that they go through is very, very difficult than what normal people are. Mostly their sufferings are mental, but then slowly over a period of time, that mental suffering converts into physical suffering, where it could hit their heart or the body or whatever it is. And finally, sometimes they even end their life because they can't anymore control their the pain that they go through in terms of their mental sufferings. So it's just one phase of what we see from them, but there is a lot of it that is behind it. But the simple answer is yes, they are continuing to withdraw their balance as long as it is there, but when they are done with it, they have to continue to suffer.
So one question here is, what is the shortest way of attaining transcendental knowledge and to sustain it? Yeah. So as described by our acharyas, doing japa is the shortest way. Every day morning, ensure you do japa. That itself is one of the shortest ways. Yeah.
Prabhuji, you said, what great men do, common people follow. So Krishna also came as Maryada Purusha Lord Ram. Then why today's men of Gaur Kalyug, why don't they follow him? Why do we see so many deceits, cheats, none, the politicians or kings and so forth? So why do they follow? Why? Well, yes, Krishna came as Maryada Purusha Lord Ram, and he displayed a lot of wonderful qualities of how a human being should be, or how a son should be, how a king should be, and so on and so forth. But the problem with us is that what was said in the Bhagavad Gita is common people follow, but we common people in the Kali Yuga, we don't follow. It is because we don't follow, we are in the Gaur Kali Yuga. That's the problem. If we follow, definitely, even being in Kali Yuga, we could be good people. Another question here. I'm not sure if Mohan Prabhu is there. I saw him going.
Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu. Sorry, I was reading.
Is Krishna incarnation of Vishnu, or Vishnu is manifestation of Krishna? If it is the other way around, why is Krishna addressed as Vishnu in many verses? Well, Vishnu is a manifestation of Krishna. And he's also addressed as Vishnu in various places, because fundamentally there's no difference between Krishna and Vishnu. Both are the same fundamental personalities. The difference is that when, let's say, the prime minister is there, the prime minister is in office, then he has a certain way that you can relate with him. But let's say the prime minister is my father, and if he's going to come home, he's not going to behave like how he's going to be in the office. But perhaps when I go to his office, he will keep me a little bit at bay, that I can't jump into his shoulders and have the same kind of the relationship I enjoy when I'm at home with him. So that is the difference. So Krishna is like when he's at home, and Vishnu is like when he is in office, where he has a very formal relation of awe and reverence between his devotee and him. But fundamentally, he's the same person. So he is interchangeably addressed as Vishnu or Krishna. But Krishna is the source of all incarnations, as it is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, where Brahma himself says, right, Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishtan, Nana Avataram Akarod Bhubaneshu Kintu, Krishna has Swayam Samabhavat Paramav Pumanyo, he says. Krishna has Swayam. He comes directly, he doesn't incarnate. And that's the point that Brahmaji is clarifying there.
Okay, so one question is, isn't it a natural phenomenon that a person does get attached in this material world to something or someone? What can be done to get over this? Yeah, so exactly. So like Prabhu explained this particular aspect in a different manner and for a different question, which is similar. Yeah, that you Krishnaize that relationship, yeah, or you bring God consciousness into that relationship, and automatically that attachment itself, yeah, will become purified, and it will not bind you there. Yeah, like exactly follow the principles that are mentioned in the 4th chapter around transcendental knowledge. Sorry. So then another question is, what happens when activity for pleasure of Krishna is done just as the prescribed duty for the sake of it and not with a spiritual sense? Yeah, Krishna, that still gives you liberation. Yeah. So Putana, for example, wanted to kill Krishna. Yeah, she did. It was not out of devotion for Krishna. Yeah, but still she got liberation. Yeah. So this connection to Krishna, connection to God, is very important here. That is the aspect to understand here. So even if you do it fakingly, jokingly, out of fear, out of anger, it is, of course, we are not in that state as of today to be angry with the Lord. Yeah, but if you be in that particular state, it still liberates you. That particular actions liberate you. That is the understanding here. That Jnanagni, or the fire of knowledge, that we saw in the 4th chapter, actually destroys the attachment and the karma that gets generated out of that particular activity.
There's this question here by Gauriji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. What should be done with enemies of the soul? Should we control or get rid of them totally? Because getting rid of them is impossible as it is natural. But controlling them will mean we still have them in us. Yes, interesting. So the first thing is that I think the enemies that were being referred to here is the lust and anger. Kamayesha, Krodayesha, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha, he says. And if you look at it in that same verse, he says this lust and anger are the enemies, and they are sitting in different places, which is the sense, intelligence, so on and so forth. Yeah. And then the question says the enemies of the soul. Actually, the soul does not have any enemy, because the soul is always very pure. So the soul cannot have enemy. But because the soul is encaged in a body, I'm using the word not engaged, encaged. Srila Prabhupada uses a very interesting word called, like the bird is put in a cage, our soul is put in this body. Right now we are in a human body, and so on and so forth. So when we are encaged in the body, we associate with the 3 modes of nature, which is sattva, rajas, and tamo. And where does this lust and anger come from? It comes from rajoguna samudbhavaha. Samudbhavaha, it says it comes from rajoguna. So all that we need to do is that we don't have to control lust and anger. If we just take care of the source of lust and anger, which is rajoguna, which means we have to shift from rajoguna to sattva-guna, then we get rid of lust and anger. Now, how do we get to sattva-guna? And is sattva-guna alone enough? No, we have to rise above sattva-guna also. In fact, that's what Krishna says to Arjuna. He says, Traigunna Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunyo Bhava Arjuna, rise above all the 3 modes of nature is what Krishna says. But in any case, how do we get rid of this Rajoguna and Tamoguna, and in fact, even the Sattvaguna, and establish ourselves in Suddha Sattva? That is, when we associate with the right kind of people who have the right gunas, then we also rise above those gunas. So he says, Karanam guna sangasya, by association is how it happens. So change your association. That is how you get rid of the enemies.
Fantastic. I think we are just on time here. It's already 9 o'clock. So I think, of course, a lot of fantastic questions further. So like what we said and what we promised, each of these questions, we will answer them through our question blog. Yeah. So please keep posting questions here also, and also on the blog. Yeah, so that we will get a chance to also revel in this particular knowledge that is there. Hare Krishna, Jai Govind Prabhu, anything do we want to close by this time now?
Jagan Prabhu, would you like to say something?
No, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Thanks a lot for all the devotees for joining.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mohan Prabhu, for his very, very enthralling and enlightening session on 3rd and 4th chapter. Very, very useful.
Shival Prabhu?
Now, nothing more to add.
Yeah.
Looking forward to taking again 2 huge chapters tomorrow. The level of delivery set by the earlier speakers is making me nervous. Looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much once again. You have joined and made our day, and kindly pass on this information to your colleagues, relatives, friends. Encourage them, all of them, to join this wonderful courses. You see how our teachers are putting the best effort, and tomorrow we have again interesting speaker, and so we'll keep that as suspense. And as we have mentioned, please visit our website bit.do/essence of Gita. So kindly post your all questions, and we have a feedback form. So you are free to fill that. So please give us some suggestions so we can serve you better. So before we conclude this thing, keep safe and keep good. So we all see you tomorrow evening. Good night.
Hare Krishna.
Good night, and thank you so much.